Welcome to another exciting episode of the $1 Million Peddlers. I'm Papergoy.
Now, Mr. Magazine.
I'm going to ask you a little something, Mr. Magazine.
All right.
The Beatles. That's not really a question, but the Beatles.
Mm-hmm.
What are your thoughts on them and how their memorabilia sells?
Well, they're very popular,
Okay.
iconic,
Okay.
and I think it's like any other legend. Elvis, Marilyn Monroe. They got stuff that's really hot and rare, and they got stuff that's very common. But you can always sell them for any price. There's always someone out there. There's always going to be demand for them. Even 50 years from now, in my opinion.
Okay.
Is that what you're looking for?
I got a bunch of Beatles stuff to sell you, apparently.
Oh, good.
I've been listing it over on Whatnot books and that kind of thing, magazines,
Well,
things
you
like
didn't
that.
say. Now, you
Things
said
like
hold
that.
on, I'm going to interrupt you again. If you said anywhere else in the world, I would say you might have a little success, except on eBay and whatnot. But go ahead.
Oh, all right. All right. And it wasn't necessarily all Beatles stuff, but it would be stuff of
Beetle Bailey,
that might actually be hotter.
Blue Beetle.
And that would be definitely hotter. It would be like John Lennon magazine right after his death, or Paul McCartney magazine from the 80s, or, even the peripheral, like Yoko Ono People magazine, things like that. And it was a Yoko Ono right after John's death. How is she holding up? Couldn't get anybody to buy it for $3, and it didn't have a mailing label.
I guess you should have brought them to me.
And I'm just finding that in general, songbooks, all that kind of stuff, are not really selling very well. When they do get a bid, they might get one bid from time to time.
Mm-hmm.
And the other big problem you have with the Beatles, at least for reselling, is they're one of those, I'm not going to say they're exactly gated on Amazon, but an awful lot of their stuff you cannot sell on Amazon. That's one of those, they must really protect their copyright. Now, can you sell records and CDs over there? Well, probably not CDs, but can you sell records over
I've
there?
definitely sold records for sure. We've been, from time to time we'll get a few here and there, and haven't had an issue, so far. I'm guessing though, if you can fly under the radar with Beatles stuff if you got magazines, things like that. But if you have like
Books, they definitely
a
knock off.
desk calendar or action figures, certain things like that are magazines that they don't have the UPC codes and stuff. So I think that's stuff you can fly under the radar. But things that are produced. Figurines, toys.
Can you sell?
Like that.
Didn't they do a lot of action figures and all that from Yellow Submarine?
Yeah.
Can those be sold on Amazon?
When I had them last, which was maybe a year ago, I was able to sell them.
But
Again, things could change, or at some point maybe they ended them. I don't even realize it, and they're sitting in some box somewhere.
And do things like that sell fairly well or not really?
Yeah, those are always a good seller. Yeah.
All right, so you have a completely different view of them as than I do.
Right. Well, and it might be too where I would say the last few years I've been putting the Beatles stuff on Amazon first, and I've been lucky to sell this stuff. So whether it's a magazine, a record, or toys, I've had success with it. Where on eBay, maybe I would have some, less success, but in less price, they would go for less for sure. So, but I've been fine with them.
Well, because the other one that I always go back to is I don't want to necessarily call it the ultimate sucker buy, but it would be definitely has lost a lot of value from the time when I was a kid, are the non-sports cards. The old black and white non-sports cards from '64, I guess that would be. They did, 3 or 4 series of the black and white?
Yeah.
Those used to be $3 a piece all day long for singles. Now you can pick them up for $1 or less in lots.
Yeah, I think a lot of the non-sport cards are not just the Beatles. Even if you're looking at Batman or any of the other, some rare ones, I think the ungraded stuff in VG condition is definitely dropping, but if you got high grade stuff, you're gonna get a premium for that. So I'm sure, like, if you would a mint, collection of the Beatles cards, you might get $20 a piece because they're gonna grade them and get hundreds back. So all depends.
Yeah, and a lot of these have writing on them, tape on them, that kind of stuff, just because they were well loved. But even like the 1960s magazines that have the Beatles in them. Mm-hmm. It could be that there's so many of them, and the collectors are fewer and fewer. Yeah. And it could be that a lot of the stuff is starting to hit the market again, too, as the original owners, are getting a little bit older. They're moving, downsizing. Sure. Yep. And you get into it. They're going to be moving from a 15 or 1,800 square foot house that they always had to a little 1,200 square foot retirement home, patio home, and they're saying we don't have room for everything.
Yeah.
When's the last time we looked at these magazines from 1964? 1964. What do we have them for? They're 60 years old. We never look at them.
Yeah.
Let's just sell them. And then they have the estate sale with those in or whatever. And then, of course, the estate sale people are all, oh, these things are hot. These things are hot. And they put them out for $5 to $10 a piece, and they don't sell.
Right.
And they end up selling them to somebody on the last day for, $5 for the whole pile because nobody bought them.
Right.
Because they're the more common stuff also. I just kind of was wondering about that because it's actually kind of shocking to me. I did pick up a fair number of Beatles items, and I'm like, oh, yeah, these things are going to sell. And I probably am having about 65% sell-through rate over on Whatnot, when usually I'm doing 75 to 90% on other items. They're actually hurting my sell-through rate.
Crazy.
Beatles, and I'm asking the $3 that I ask on everything else. So kind of wondering out there what you find with Beatles, whether they sell for you or not, if you have any tips on them. I just don't have the great luck with them. Not that I wouldn't, of course, buy them, but I certainly walk by all of the Beatles stuff when you see the old-time dealer with the table of magazines, $10, $20, $30 a piece. There, I definitely walk right by them. I got to buy them for $1 or less, even just to take a chance on them.
You should find someone like, say, London News Magazines and do a trade or something.
Really?
Yeah. Because you'll get a lot more for them. Maybe not on Whatnot, but...
That's true. That is true. But who would have illustrated London News Magazines?
I don't know. Probably Mr. Magazine.
But yeah, do comment down below on the Beatles stuff and how you find it. Again, because it's something that I'm tending to stay away from unless I get really cheap. Yeah, as opposed to certainly the old timers will definitely say, oh, that's really, really hot. You got to get the Beatles stuff. It's always hot. So for whatever reason, it's not.
How was that Rolling Stone nude cover, though? That was always good for years. It must still be okay, right?
I would think that one would still sell. Yeah, that is an iconic. That is probably at least the later stuff, the most popular, famous one out there. And I'm sure, again, it's like anything else. I'm sure you've got some oddball stuff that nobody has that would be very, very valuable. But again, the more common stuff that you can see definitely is tougher to sell. Yeah. And part of it, too, might be they kind of had a renaissance. Now, whether they actually did or not, or whether just their marketing department had a renaissance, where they released the Yellow Submarine figures, and they released... Remember, they had the Reader's Digest cover, 4 different covers, TV Guide, 4 different covers, all these different things, all these different covers on the stuff. And that was, 90s, 2000s, and all that kind of stuff.
Sure.
A lot of that stuff could be out there mass-produced as well because everybody bought it. Oh, it's the Beatles. Oh, 4 covers. I got to collect them. And then all of a sudden you're like going, oh, no, they're really not worth too much. So hopefully that helps you a little bit out there. Try to steer you away from investing a lot of money in something or other that doesn't necessarily sell. I know a lot of people will scream, you got to buy this, you got to buy this. We've always felt that teaching you what not to buy is just as important. Yeah. Do hit the like button. We would really appreciate that. And we will see you next video.
Take care. Bye-bye.